Hi, friends. Welcome to tonight's live chat. Hope you're doing okay. How are you on this Friday? Hope you're doing all right. I am trying to muster up as much strength as I possibly can. Hopefully, if you hear any tech issues, please let me know, as you guys so kindly always do, because I had some issues with my microphone earlier today. And I don't want to mess this live chat up because I know a lot of you really want to hear this topic. So everything looks good on my end, I think. Yeah, everything looks good on my end. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump in. And I know you guys will. Jump in and start asking questions and so forth as you trickle over from wherever else you are on YouTube. I am trying my very hardest to muster up some strength because earlier today, guys, I was down with a stomach bug of some kind, and I don't know what it was, but I laid there on my bed unwillingly because I was still like laying on my back doing paperwork and whatever. And I'm like, I have to get through this day. I want to make it to the end of my YouTube conversation, and then I can go ahead and just be sick. You know what I mean? So I am here. That's really all I'm saying. So let's jump into this conversation. A lot of you are probably like, when you saw the title or when you saw the thumbnail, a lot of your reactions were probably something along the lines of, yes, that's me, or I feel like I've been framed in my family, or, maybe you were thinking something like, oh my God, this is so what happened to me and my family, especially when Aunt BB decided to go to my cousin, who then went to my mother, who then went to my father. And it was this whole big triangulation of who said what and why they said what they said. More than likely, you started going back in your mind and really trying to piece together what it feels like to be framed. When you hear the word framed, doesn't it give you like a legal edge? Doesn't it kind of give you like a legalistic kind of feel? It's like, okay, the only thing I know about being framed is being placed in this box of legal accusations where people are just saying things about you that's not true, throwing things at law enforcement against you, and talking to law enforcement sometimes and trying to get them to believe things against you. When you hear framing, you can kind of feel like this has little to do with psychology and more to do with law. But the reality is this: the word frame or framing really means the manipulation of evidence, right? The manipulation of evidence, the manipulation of how somebody sees you, manipulation of how somebody thinks of you. And even though it's a legal term, and we see it more in that realm, it's also a psychological term. In the field or in the realm of psychology, we call this a cognitive bias. A cognitive bias. Think of a cognitive bias as wearing shades inside the home, inside your home or indoors. When you wear shades indoors, everything just seems really dim. You can kind of make some things out, but your vision is not as clear as it should be because you've got shades covering your eyes, and it makes it really hard for you to clearly interpret what's all around you. In fact, your peripheral vision may also suffer. You may not be able to see what's on the sides of you because of wearing shades indoors. So if you kind of take that ideology and apply it to being framed, it kind of makes sense that this is a cognitive bias. It's really like putting a pair of sunglasses over your eyes while you're indoors. And so what happens in family dynamics where you may be feeling like you have been framed, like you have been categorized incorrectly, that information about you has been manipulated all around you to a point that your true identity gets lost. You may feel like you are being framed, and in a sense, you are. A cognitive bias isn't easy to minimize or decrease or get rid of. If you have a family member, let's say your dad, who's very cold, very unemotional, callous even, he's had a history of animal cruelty. He seems to really like drama. He's angry, he's impulsive, he's explosive, right? So you have this kind of a father, and yet he carries the cognitive bias of framing. And you guys get into a spat or an argument. What do you think he's going to do with you? Because dad already has a personality pathology. He truly does come across as antisocial. He truly comes across as a sociopath. So, what do you think dad is going to see in you, or try to cause other people in the family or outside of the family to see in you, once you guys finally clash? And his cognitive bias may be that he can't see you outside of the way that he's already perceived you, which is you are wrong, you are the problem, you need correction, and nobody should give you a chance because you blew it, for example, or nobody should hear you out because what you're talking about is nonsense, or nobody's ever abused you as a child. Who do you think you are going around talking about you've been abused? Your mom and I have never abused you, right? So whatever the issue is that causes you guys to butt heads, this cognitive bias of framing serves dad but goes against you, because that frame that he has put you in, I'm trying to serve this to you in a variety of ways so that you can kind of see yourself in this. But that frame that he has kind of served to you, when you get upset, when you get offended, when you say you're hurt, when you go no contact, when you start putting up healthy boundaries, what do you think dad's going to do? He's going to say, you know what? This is her. This is him. Here's the frame. The frame is this. She or he is disrespectful. She or he is ungrateful. She or he is manipulative. He or she, whatever your gender is, my son, my daughter, they're going to frame you. And when they start sharing, when your dad, for example, starts sharing that information with other family members, your family members have a decision to make. Either they're going to believe the frame that dad has put you in, because he's manipulated evidence, he's manipulated how they see you, he's manipulated what happened in the argument between the two of you, he's manipulated how other people are now perceiving you. So your family has a decision to make. Either they're going to believe that frame that your dad is serving them, or they're going to go against your father and say, that's not Bethany. That's not Robert. They wouldn't do that. There's been a horrible misunderstanding. I think you guys are just angry with each other. The list goes on, right? So your family has two different ways that they can engage in this. But sadly, a lot of times within families where there's cliques, where there's coalitions, where there's alliances, coalitions and alliances is really just, we've come together and we agree on this one particular thing concerning you. And so now it's me, my husband, your brother, your sister, and your cousin, and grandma and grandpa, who all come together and say, you have a problem. And so that's an alliance. Now, coalition could be, it's just mom and dad who believe something about you, and they kind of come at you about it at the same time, or they stand firm on their belief as your parents of something about you that may not be true or may not be reality. So coalitions and alliances, those are ruts, within a family, because once there's a coalition, once there's a alliance, once family members have come together on something and they believe the same thing, it makes it easier for them to frame you because they believe the same thing about you, right? So it makes it a lot easier for them to frame you. Now, let me give you a definition of what framing actually means, because if we're talking about this in a psychological sense and not a legal sense, you're going to want to know what this is. So framing is really an interpretation of information on you that fits their preconceived notions and biases of you. Framing, it's the interpretation of information on you that fits their preconceived notions and pre-existing beliefs of you. And so an example could be, maybe your mom's going to frame you and say, Kelly has always been a very angry, hostile, explosive child. Anytime she is triggered, it is hard to talk to her. It is hard to get through. We've taken her to many therapists. She can't stay in therapy. We think she's bipolar. Many doctors think she's psychotic. So there's the frame already. So how do you think your brother's going to treat you? Your sister's going to treat you, your cousin, maybe your grandparents, maybe a neighbor, maybe a close family friend. They may be a little standoffish. They may be a little bit afraid of you, not knowing how to take you. They may also judge you and really put you in a category that is not your true identity. Why? Because mom has already framed you and she has given them some kind of idea as to who you are. And for people who are highly suggestible, meaning people who are highly influenced, you could say something or mention something and they're hooked. So for people who are highly suggestible, it is very easy for them to say, oh, we'll believe you. We know something's wrong with Kelly. Oh, we know something's wrong. We've seen it. And so this is how framing goes. And within a family dynamic, it can be terrifying, right? Now, let's pull another legal term just for a second. And really what it is wrongful accusations. In a legal sense, wrongful accusations is, you sexually assaulted me, when the reality is, no, he didn't sexually assault you. He did, but you got their identities mixed up because it was dark, or you were in a building all by yourself, or you were so upset you couldn't remember the details, right? So wrongful accusations, they can be intentional and they can also be unintentional. So in a family where you are being framed in a dysfunctional dynamic, let's say wrongful accusations, I'm sorry, guys. I'm still dealing with like the nausea from earlier today. I just need a sip. I swear. My mom is like, you can't stay well long enough. And really it feels like that, guys. It feels like I'm well for maybe a month and then I go back down. I get back up, I go back down. I get back up. So today was nausea and it is really kicking me. So bear with me, okay, guys? But I want to deliver this to you in a way that's engaging like I always do. So bear with me. But wrongful accusations, they are really allegations based on untruths. I'll break it down to that level. It is really accusations or allegations that is based on untruths. And again, that can be unintentional or intentional. If it's intentional, it could be quote unquote planting evidence, right? And that can happen in a dysfunctional family. I'm going to go, let's say sibling rivalry, okay? Your evil sister may say, you know what? I'm going to go over to Pamela's house and I'm going to plant this pill right in her purse. And this pill is a Percocet. It's a narcotic. And I want mom and dad to believe that Pamela is on drugs, because then they will leave the estate and her all of their hard-earned money to me. So this is your evil sister, okay? She comes to your house, you're talking to her, you say, you know what, let me just run upstairs for a second. I got to get my phone so you can hear this whole thing that he texts me, okay? Your sister goes up the steps to go get her phone. This is an example. You take out that Percocet in your pocket. You put it down in her purse. Then you set her purse neatly on a couch like it was, and you continue your conversation. You guys end up going to go visit mom and dad for Memorial Day. And as you're visiting mom and dad, you see your sister's holding her purse, but she's not holding it strong enough, right? So it can easily be knocked out of her hand. You go over and you're talking to your sister and you say, it's so good to see you. And you act like you're going to give her a big hug and you knock her purse out of her hand. And what comes flying out of it? Well, her cell phone, her lipstick, her lotion, her suntan lotion or sunblock, and the Percocet. Now your mom and dad are looking at this big white pill that's on the floor, and they want to know, since when did you start abusing narcotics? Wrongful accusations. And this is a whole process that can actually happen in family therapy. And I've dealt with this over the past, coming up really soon, 16 years of my career, where I've seen families in this very same dynamic. And I remember thinking, as I was becoming, more knowledgeable about this over the years, I remember thinking, this is like a soap opera. You mean to tell me people's lives are really like this? This was me as my young self. I didn't know what I thought I knew. And sometimes situations play out just like that. And if you have an evil sibling, if you have an evil parent, they will do things like that. They can plant things and make it look like you are lying or you're not being honest, right? So planting evidence is part of wrongful accusations within a toxic family dynamic. Lying and coercing, that's another thing. And in cases where there's law, false testimony. And there may be situations in families too where something has happened, you're being accused of something, but your cousin decides to go along with the lie in order to protect their side of the family, in order to protect how they see things or how they have been raised in the family, whatever the case is. But when there's wrongful accusations involved, anything goes. And that's the scary part. Now, there's a such thing as the false consensus effect. And this really hits families hard. The false consensus effect. It sounds big, but here's what it really is. It's a belief that overrides or I'm going to say overestimates. I want to use that word. It's a belief that overestimates how much other people believe what it is that you believe. So in a family where there's toxic dynamics, a false consensus effect would be displayed in, let's say, your brother. Your brother has heard over many, many years in the family that you are the irresponsible one. Over time, you have made some mistakes with your brother. So what does he do? Well, he adopts this theory that you are irresponsible. And so the false consensus effect comes in when he begins to overestimate how much your family believes that you are irresponsible. So he believes very, very strongly, almost like a delusion. You can't shake it. You can't move it. He just believes it. And he may believe that his opinion of you is widely shared in the family. And when there's a false consensus effect where the family member feels like, I'm going to believe this about you because everybody else in the family believes it, when that is at play, if that's part of the dynamic, then it can make it really hard for you to kind of unwind yourself from that, right? Because somebody in your family is strongly believing that everybody else in the family sees you the way that they see you. And that is not a healthy way to think about family, right? Let's say, for example, you're the black sheep, you're the scapegoat. And everybody in the family says you're irresponsible. Everybody in the family says you've tried drugs. Everybody in the family says you're also an alcoholic. Everybody in the family says you are rude and dysfunctional. Everybody stay away from Kimberly and Bob in the family because they are problematic, right? So let's say your sibling has heard this over the years, right? That something is wrong with you. And when it boils down to your relationship with your sibling may experience the false consensus effect. I am going to believe that you are just as dysfunctional as everybody else in this family thinks you are. The reality may mean that only one person truly believes that in the family, or maybe two people believe that in the family, or maybe Uncle BB and his children believe that, right? But that doesn't mean everybody in the family thinks you're the black sheep or the scapegoat. But family members will fall into this, and they will sometimes get on the team of other family members because of the false consensus effect. They erroneously believe that everybody in the family shares their opinion about you. Everybody believes you're the black sheep, Joe. And the reality is that's probably not the truth, right? The other thing is Polarized thinking. And I'm going to go to the chat box. I see somebody, Bossy Truthy 15. I'm going to put this up here just for a second. That's my uncle. Bossy Truthy 15 says, yeah, I have a feeling that you guys are going to be able to relate to this for sure. Let me take you down from here, Bossy Truthy 15. I'm not ready for comments yet, but we're going to get there, I promise. Polarized thinking. Polarized thinking is known as a cognitive distortion. A cognitive distortion is a way that we as humans tend to think when we are either very negative, pressured, overwhelmed, anxious, depressed, or just struggling with how we perceive reality. That's why we call it a cognitive distortion. It's really a skewed way of thinking about something, a skewed way of thinking could be, I'm going to look at every face in Walmart and I'm going to be able to see, just based on people's faces, if they like me or not. And we call that mind reading. That we can look at somebody and say, I know what you're thinking of me. I can see it on your face. Some people are very obvious, right? You can see it. But there are also situations where that's not happening at all. And it's a distortion. It's a cognitive distortion. It's a psychological distortion. It isn't true. So a polarized thinking process is a cognitive distortion. And if you're in a family where you are being framed, polarized thinking is probably at play. Everything is black or white. Yes or no. Yay or nay. There's no in between. There's no gray. We live in a lot of gray in our society. And I feel like we live in a lot of gray more now than we have in the past. Gray, the gray area kind of leaves some room for other ways of thinking. But if you have a family member who has polarized thinking, you guess what they're going to do to you. Imagine what they're going to do to you. If you are framed in the family, there is no coming back for you with a person who has polarized thinking. If you just got out of prison after serving 15 years and you have done great, you have found God, okay, in jail, you have gotten a degree in law in jail, you've been volunteering, now you're released, you're ready to get on with your life. Your family may not see that you are, what's the word that I'm looking for? I can't think of the word. I can't think of it. It's escaping me. But your family may not believe that you are ready to go back into the world, the real world. And polarized thinking says you're going to fail. End of story. You're going to fail. You're either going to sink or swim. And that's black or white or polarized thinking. And sometimes family members kind of get stuck in that. And so they contribute to you being framed because they only see you in one way. They don't have any room in their mind to see some better elements of you, to see some positive growths in you, right? So polarized thinking can keep you in one specific seat for a very, very long time. This live chat tonight, guys, I'm going to talk about common issues with families where a lot of framing begins and how it impacts you in the long run. I also want to talk just a little bit about complex PTSD. I'm going to do that here in just a little bit. And then I'm going to give you some information on how research and psychology sees that being psychologically framed can impact you in the long run. And I also see this in my practice as well. It can have a really deep impact on you because, and maybe I'll mention this here before I go to the chat box, being framed is very much being labeled, and labels can be dangerous. We all know that. Labels can be dangerous. Once you're labeled something, there's a psychological process that happens. You either live up to that label, which we call a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? If a teacher, for example, sees a student who's not doing very well, and they sit back and they have different faces and they have different attitudes and dispositions or thoughts about a child can pick up on that in a classroom. And if the teacher says, you know what, that child is not going to make it in life, they're going to end up in jail, all of their communication with that child may cause that child to just give up and say, you know what, my teacher thinks I'm going to jail, so I guess I am. And so we call that a self-fulfilling prophecy. So that is one way labels can impact you. Another way is that labeling kind of shapes your behavior. And it also shapes your identity. So if you have a family that has framed you as someone that you aren't framed you as the drug addict, framed you as the immature one, framed you as the black sheep, framed you as the scapegoat, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to shape your behavior and your identity, but the possibility is high. And this is backed by research that once you're labeled, it's like a molding process, it's a molding process. And over time, your behavior and your mindset and your actions are shaped. And that's the sad part, right? So if you have been wrongly framed in your family, there's a possibility that maybe some of those labels you've been applied with, maybe they have kind of shaped your identity, right? It's a sad reality. All right, guys. So that's the live chat tonight in a nutshell. Now, for those of you who feel like I have complex PTSD, I'm going to break it down a little bit later. I'm not going to do it now. I'm going to break it down a little bit later so that you can see clearly what PTSD is and what complex PTSD is. Because when you are framed, you're labeled, you're identified to be something, maybe something that you are not. Complex PTSD has a room on the table because complex PTSD is really this chronic, prolonged trauma. And it's repetitive and repeated and chronic and pervasive and prolonged. And so if you have symptoms that are the result of bad relationships or a bad family dynamic, then complex PTSD could be a negative impact. It could be a part of the equation here, and it can really sink you. I'll put it that way. So, okay, well, we're going to get to that. Let me go back to the very top of the live chat. Let me welcome you, Daryl Harris. Hello and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. Let's see. Daryl Harris says, very interesting, and much needed. Suffering from convictions they did not deserve. This video would be beneficial for innocent law-abiding citizens of any nation around the world. Wow. Well, I truly hope so. And Daryl Harris, I don't know if I've ever thanked you for becoming a member of the channel, but thank you so very, very much for that. I don't know why I didn't see it before. Maybe it just happened. I can't place it, but thank you so much for that. I'm so glad to have you. And I hope it will be helpful. I hope it will be. Awesome. Hello and welcome. Good to see you. Welcome back. Son of Sunflowers. Kamisha Green, Unapologetically Me. Hello and welcome. And thank you so much for that. I hope it will be helpful and insightful. I see MS. Not tonight, YouTube. You know the t-shirts that are like "Not today, Satan"? Have you ever seen those? Have you ever seen those t-shirts? Oh, I've wanted one of those for the longest. Wait, why can I? Come on, YouTube. What? Okay, here we go. I think I got it. Those shirts that are like "Not today, Satan." Well, I want one that says "Not today, YouTube," because I feel like we're always having issues on here. MS, Give It a Think, Lore Fit, Bossy Truthy 15, Axe to Edge, Priya Mason, Gary Bennett, and Clandestine Girl 16X. Hello and welcome to all of you. Always glad to see you on here. Thank you so much. Yes, they are the worst, aren't they? And my stomach bug today was like, I feel stronger. Oh God, I'm going back down. I feel stronger. Okay, maybe not so much. You know what I mean? So thank you for that. I appreciate you. Pink Meadows, hello and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. Thank you, Axe to Edge. Thank you so much. I know, right? I literally had to cancel some clients today, and I absolutely hate doing that. I hate doing it. Is it normal? Yes. Is it kind of inevitable? Yes, because we're human beings too. But I hate canceling and rescheduling clients. But guys, I couldn't handle it. Give It a Think says, when your family has roles, there's never ending nonsense. They make up stories about you when you don't fulfill your role. Then whisper, whisper, whisper. Yeah, sometimes. Absolutely. Right. Think of family roles. Let me go over them briefly. Family roles. And this is backed by research. This is what psychology has identified over the years as being very common family roles. You have the lost child. The lost child is an individual who kind of wants to stay out of the drama. They want to stay out of the chaos. They don't want to have to deal with all the dysfunction in the family. So what do? They go over there. They sit in the corner. They stay as quiet as they can. They try not to say much. They try not to share much. They kind of don't know who they are. and they kind of stay in this little box because they know what it's like if they were to come out of that box. So they kind of stay in there. That's the lost child. Then you have the scapegoat or the black sheep. We all know what that is, right? You also have the hero or the rescuer, and that is the family member who tends to be me and my family, and sometimes my older brother. The rescuer and the hero role, we're always there swooping in like Wonder Woman and Superman and Batman, and the list goes on, to care for family, to cover things, to block things, to counsel, to show love, to care for, all of that, right? So, what did I say so far? The lost child, the scapegoat, the black sheep, the hero, the rescuer. We also have the mascot or the family clown, and that's the family member who clearly takes nothing seriously. Everything is a joke. And that is not good for them or the whole family, because everybody is, everybody around Uncle BB thinks he's hilarious. And so when I tell them that I'm dying of cancer, or I'm dying of this, or I'm dying of that, or I have this mental health problem, nobody believes me, because Uncle BB thinks everything is a joke, that nothing bad can happen to anybody, right? So that's the mascot of the family clown. And I feel like I'm missing one. The lost child, the scapegoat, the black sheep, the mascot. There's another one I'm missing though, and I can't think of it. It'll come to me. The enabler. There we go. The enabler. So the enabler tends to be that family member that just kind of pats the person who's guilty of a lot of things on the shoulder and says, it'll be okay. We'll get through this. I'll comfort you. I'll keep you in the family. I'll loan you money. I'll even go on the side of the corner and get your drugs for you because I want to just let you know that I love you. So the enabler, right? And so these family roles can really hold. They latch onto you and they stick. And you may find yourself transforming from one role to the next role to the next role. And your family may not see that because they have one specific role for you, one specific label. My mother, I don't know if I've shared this with you guys. My mother, okay, was considered in my family the black sheep. My mom wasn't quote unquote wild, but she wasn't necessarily saved all her life. She really wasn't as close to God as she is now. Now she's like Mother Teresa, at 66 years old. But younger, my mom was something. And you can see that in her photos, And unfortunately, she kind of over time, adopted the label of the black sheep within the family. That's the one that talks against religion or religious people. My grandmother hated that. My mom was very picky when it came to going to churches, when she was kind of trying to find her way with God. And it's reported to me by multiple family members. My mom would talk back to a pastor. My mom would point out that a pastor is wrong. My mom would stand up and say whatever she needed to say fearlessly. And so she kind of gained, because of her attitude and some of the roads that she took in her life and some of the attitudes. My mom was the kind of mom, if she didn't like you, it's all over her face. She will not smile with you if she doesn't like you. If you're laughing and giggling and she doesn't think it's funny, you're going to see a flat affect. She's not going along with you. She was very matter-of-factly. And so she gained the identity. I know you guys can relate. That's why I'm telling you this. She gained the identity of the black sheep. And so for many, many years, she was considered the black sheep. Let me be honest with you here. Even when my mom decided to homeschool me, she did everything from scratch. There was no such thing as cyber school, none of that. She did every single subject from scratch, taught herself every single subject so she could teach it to us. Or she reached out to people who could tutor us as well. But when my mom decided to homeschool, she still had the black sheep and scapegoat role just hanging over her like a black cloud. And I feel like I'm going to say a specific member of my extended family, kind of felt like you're probably not going to make it in life as her children because she's the black sheep. And it turned out being the total opposite, So you may gain that label and identity, but over time, you may lose it, if that makes sense, or you may shift over time, Okay, I will leave it at that. Jessica J, hello and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. Bear with me, guys, as I go along. Jermaine, so good to see you. Yeah, that's good. And thank you so much for that. I'm sure you feel like you're being framed. We're going to get into this. What do family members do when they frame you? We're going to get into this a little bit. Anaphylaxis, so good to see you. Welcome back. Thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate you and the love. Thank you. I'm definitely going to do that as soon as I sign off tonight. Danita Miner or Minner, I'm so glad that you can make a live chat tonight. Welcome to the channel and so good to have you. Annie Welker, hello. Happy Friday to you. I can work things out breezy. Hello and welcome. Always glad to see you as well. Clandestine Girl 16X says, my sister has always framed me for everything, even making up lettings and planting drug paraphernalia in my old bedroom at my parents' after I moved out and been living on my own for years. Ooh, siblings are cruel, right? Sometimes when it comes to, framing the other sibling for something. I watched two siblings in my waiting room one day because my back was turned to the kids, 9 and 11. Excuse me, and I'm talking to their mom. And my back is turned. And I hear them fighting and kind of, getting riled up with each other. And I have like 900 million surveillance cameras, okay? So if I had to go back and get the video evidence, it would be right there. But I didn't go that far. But I turned my body in a way where I could see the kids out of my periphery. And one sibling pushed and nudged with their elbow the other kid. And as soon as the other kid started crying, you want to know what the elbower and the nudger said? Oh, it wasn't me. The only reason he's crying is because he was trying to steal one of Miss Tamara's toys. And so I looked at him and I said, why are you lying? And he just looked like, how do you know I'm lying, And so siblings can be really evil when it comes to framing each other. No, he's not crying because you told him to stop trying to steal one of Miss Tamara's toys out of the waiting room. He's crying because you nudged him and you elbowed him, right? But he was going to try to make it look like his other brother's fault, right? And so to me, siblings can be rather evil in that way, especially when they are younger, especially when they are labeled the hero in the family, the educated one, the smart one, the pretty one, the handsome one, the social one. All of that can lead to you being framed over time by that other sibling. So Clandestine Girl 16X, I totally get it. Totally get it. And I'm sorry you had to deal with that. That's not okay. I can work things out breezy. Thank you for continuing to gift people with memberships on the channel. I truly love you for that. It's so very selfless. So thank you for that. Priya Mason says, hello and welcome. Good to see you tonight. Priya Mason says, my mother gives me so much anxiety. Yeah. Sometimes that can be the case, right? Sometimes you can play off your mom's anxiety. I see that in therapy sessions sometimes. And other times, sometimes parents are just problematic and they give their children anxiety, Force of Living, good to see you back tonight. Welcome. Okay, bear with me as I go through. D Lulu, hello and welcome. Good to see you and welcome to the channel. I'm not sure what GS is standing for, guys. For those of you who are new, I don't do well with acronyms. Years ago when I became a therapist, back in 2010, 2011, 2012, when I was just starting out as a baby, somebody texted me LOL. I must have been stressed, because I just graduated from grad school. But somebody texted me LOL, and I'm like, okay, what does that mean? And then it occurred to me later, it's laughing out loud. So D Lulu, I'm not sure what GS means. Oh, I think I got it. Are you saying gang stalking? Is that what that is? I think that's what it is. I think I got that one. Tell me if I'm wrong. I think I got that one. My intuition gave that one to me. Dre Williams, hello and welcome. Good to see you. Yeah, lies. Yeah, that's horrible. Sorry, guys. Gave you the wrong view there. Yeah, that's horrible. Pathological lying, right? Compulsive lying. Sometimes those are used interchangeably. Other times they mean different things. making accusations, wrongful accusations that can fit up underlying. Yeah, totally get it. Inner Horizon Led, thank you so much. Hello and welcome. Always glad to see you on the channel. I appreciate you. Regina Myers, hello and welcome. Good to see you tonight. And thank you so much. Thank you. Sometimes it's like a weekend bug, and by Monday, I'm back to normal, you know? JKD Married Master Group, hello and good to see you. I don't see you much in live chat, so it's really good to see you. Axe to Edge, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I do take zinc. I need to buy some, so thank you. I will get some. I really appreciate you. Juby Joe, hello and welcome. Good to see you. Okay, hold on. I'm trying to move through this pretty quickly. M and Odell, I do not want to forget you. I don't think I said hello. Welcome. I was glad to see you in a live chat. D Lulu, I'm going to put you up here because I'm going to try to remember this. Is it I can work things out? Breezy. She's saying thank you for the membership. That's awesome. That's awesome. Jermaine says, I started biting my fingernails at 3 years old to the point they bled. I had to watch everyone adore and cherish my newborn brother while I had only ever felt unwanted. I became the identified patient. Wow. That is something, that is clearly just a snapshot. It's not really the whole story picture, but that is kind of the way that you remember it in your mind, right? And so that can be rather traumatic. We're going to talk about complex PTSD here in just a minute. Curl Sky, I'm so glad this was relatable. And I think a lot of you are going to get something out of this. So I want to get back to the content in a minute here, but good to see you. Glad to have you back tonight. Okay. Bear with me. All right, I'm going to put this up here. JKD Merit Master Group says, I'm definitely not judging anybody who's found themselves in trouble, but I really feel that more important than raw facts at the time is attitude. Bad attitude keeps the criminal a victim of himself. Well, I can agree with that. Yeah, I don't disagree. If you watch some of the body cam footage from police officers on YouTube, you can see how quickly things go from we're civilized. I'm pulling you over for a traffic ticket because you were speeding through a 5 miles per hour school zone. It comes from that to the person in the back seat handcuffed, arms taped together because they're kicking and screaming and biting, and the list goes on, right? So attitude does shift things. I wouldn't say that this is really the totality of the issue, but I do say it's a little small piece of the puzzle. Axe to Edge likes the false consensus effect. Yeah. Thank you, Sunflowers. I really appreciate you. Thank you. Okay, one more comment. Sun and Sunflower says, my evil sibling has spread false information on me since so young, but my narcissistic parents condone it. Yeah, I've seen that dynamic. You almost have to ask yourself, do you condone this because this is your favorite child? Do you condone this because this child reminds you of yourself? Do you condone this because you dislike me, right? So you can go many different ways with that, right, Sun and Sunflowers? I'm sorry that you have to deal with that dynamic. It's a hard one for sure. All right, guys, let's get into common issues. What are common issues in families where you feel like you have been framed? Some research suggests, and I've seen this as well, is intergenerational trauma is at the seat of things. Intergenerational trauma, or we can say family curses. Some people call it family curses. And really what happens here is family members kind of adopt similar behaviors over time. So if great grandma accused different people in the family of doing things that weren't happening, maybe grandma has a direct influence on her daughter, and her daughter has a direct influence on her son, and her son then has a direct influence on you. And so everybody in the family becomes guilty of something because there's this repetitive behavior in the family that's chronic, pervasive, and prolonged. And nothing has broken this kind of family curse. So everybody in the family gets accused of being this or gets accused of being that, or everybody becomes a drug addict. Everybody becomes a person with untreated bipolar disorder or untreated schizophrenia. And so that intergenerational trauma, or that trauma over time within a family, you can really be framed, right? You can also be framed if great grandma had schizophrenia. great-grandmother's son had bipolar disorder. The son has his own child, and his child has very, very intense anxiety, right? So being labeled, having mental illnesses within the family, having behavioral problems within the family, all of that can cause you to be framed, right? Because you have a lineage of people in your family history who can fit the description of something, right? And so that creates a frame for you. The other thing is borderline personality or histrionic personality. Now, here's what's interesting. If you have a family member who is histrionic, we're talking dramatic, manipulative, loud, controlling. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I'm trying to check on if that's my mom. I don't think so. They are being dramatic. They are being emotional. They are being theatrical, loud. They're spreading rumors, all of those things. It's much easier, right, for you to be framed if you have a histrionic personality who's calling up everybody in your family talking bad about you, or who's texting Aunt BB, and Aunt BB then goes and texts Aunt Gigi, right? And then that histrionic family member talks to Aunt Gigi and then goes somewhere else and reports information on you to that other family member. So it's kind of like this constant abuse cycle. I'll call it that. You're in this cycle of abuse with the histrionic personality. Now, if we're talking borderline personality, we all know everybody experiences it differently. But if you have a family member that has borderline personality disorder, it's very common that somebody who has little to no control over their impulses, little to no control over their emotions, could possibly have some psychotic thinking, if they are not on their medication or getting therapy. They can really fall prey to being delusional and psychotic. And an individual who has rocky and stormy relationships, anybody who has that kind of profile may run to other people in the family and spread rumors and spread lies and really come across as hurt and angry and, really stir people's emotions within the family against you. Then that's a whole process of being framed, right? And it's not because you are the problem. Your being framed isn't because of something you did. It's because the histrionic person or the person with borderline personality disorder has expressed or has shared things about you to other people in the family in such a way that it makes you appear like you are a person that you are not. Does that make sense, guys? And again, it's like a form of labeling. It's those wrongful accusations. It's that false consensus effect that we talked about a little earlier. You may also notice within your family a disturbance in self-regulation. There's a disturbance in self-regulation. And anytime family members have a disturbance in self-regulation, you're going to get false accusations. You're going to get wrongful ideas about you. You're going to get people misinterpreting your intentions, misinterpreting your attitude, misinterpreting, what you did or did not do. And to me, that says, when a family has this disturbance in self-regulation, and it's not with one or two or three family members, it's with the entire family, it can be a lot easier to be framed, right? Because nobody in the family is grounded in reality. Everybody has some kind of instability of some kind, and it all contributes to being framed. Jealousy and envy, parental jealousy, sibling jealousy, cousin jealousy, grandparent jealousy, that can all contribute to you being framed, right? Let's say your brother's highly jealous of you, didn't want you to be born. You were born, but he harassed you and he pushed you around, and he talked bad about you. He made you feel really insecure. So if that's the case, it's possible that this jealous sibling may frame you to your parents, frame you to the grandparents, frame you to your own friends, maybe teachers and coworkers and bosses, right? So jealousy and envy. Negative self-concept. If a family member has a negative self-concept and they also have a negative way that they see life, they can put you in a frame and say, you're the negative drug addict over there. You're the negative manipulator over there. You're that mean, evil person with bipolar disorder, right? And so negative self-concept of different family members can contribute to how they frame you. and make you look within the family, right? Or even try to make you think of yourself as, right? You can be framed in such a way that you begin to digest that this is who you are. Immaturity, sustained traumatic experiences, right? Rape, crime, vicarious trauma, which is I'm traumatized by listening to you, by watching you experience life. So sustained traumatic experience can lead to you being framed, right? Maybe cousin BB over there was sexually assaulted and physically abused. And now what she does when it comes to you, because you remind her of her abuser, what does she do to you? Well, she goes around the family and says you're creepy. Something about you I don't like. Something about you that I don't believe in. You know? Don't you think cousin TT over there is just odd? That kind of conversation can happen. And so while they're engaging in those behaviors, what's happening to you? Your identity is being framed. Your identity is being characterized in ways that may or may not be true. We talked about family roles. You can get shoved into the black sheep role, the lost child role. And that in and of itself is a frame. Within my family, to a certain extent, I guess you could say I'm framed. I'm not sure that's really the right word. I think that I fit into a neat box in my family. I'm the conservative one, but I'm also the open-minded one. I'm also the caring and compassionate one. I'm kind of like the brainiac, okay? And my brothers have already framed me. My brothers call me the person who can't do anything wrong, because just about everything that I do tends to turn out, which that's a blessing, right? But you can also be framed in that way too. Your siblings or your family members can look at you and say, you know what? She's always doing things that succeeds, or she's always doing something that's right, or he started his own business, or he went back to school and got himself together, So they're kind of creating this identity, right? They're molding this identity. So that can kind of be a form of framing, if you will. It's family members who are labeling you and categorizing you, and it's kind of molding you into this identity. And over time, you either fit that identity or you drop it, right? The black sheep role frame or identity, drop it, especially if you know deep down it's not you. But yeah, that's one way that you can be framed as well. Arrogance and superiority, let's say your parents have always been arrogant. They framed you as the rebellious child in the family. Why? Because you left the house at 20 to get married. You went off to college, but you didn't like it, so you dropped out. You drink alcohol with your buddies every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and you get drunk. You party all the time. You probably dress inappropriate, or you're not being honest with women. You're kind of pimping them or being a thug. All of those things can cause your parents to label you, right? And if your parents are superior, they feel like they're better than everybody else, or they're arrogant or narcissistic, it's very easy for them to look at you and say, you know what, you fit in this box. You don't meet my expectations of you. Now, let me just briefly say complex PTSD can become an issue. Before I go back to the chat box, complex PTSD can become an issue for you if you have dealt with being framed in a pervasive, prolonged, chronic relational way, where the impact of that prolonged, pervasive, and chronic labeling has shook your world, you can experience complex PTSD. Now, PTSD and complex PTSD shares a commonality, which is that you have to have a traumatic stressor. You have to have a traumatic event. It has to be kind of like the prerequisite for PTSD is that you have to have a traumatic situation. So let's say you were adopted. Your biological parents let you go, threw you in a dumpster. Garbage men heard a baby crying, looked inside the dumpster. This happens all the time, more than we think. Picks you up, calls the police. Police put you in custody of Child Protective Services. An adoptive family adopts you. This is an example of complex PTSD developing. You get into this nice foster family, but at this foster family's home, you hear dogs barking all the time, kids screaming. You're in a dark room during the day. You're always put down for naps. You're never engaged with. You're never hugged. You're never talked to or sang to. There's no mental and psychological and physical stimulation whatsoever. You may also notice in this kind of infant, there's no motivation to do anything. You're not feeling charged up and excited as a baby, right? Because you're in this weird place where all you hear is traumatic situations going on or chaos and disorganization. And so that has kind of planted something, right? Then let's say that foster family couldn't deal with you anymore, so they had to give you to an adopted family. In that family, you were being abused all the way around. Then you became an adolescent and you were sexually assaulted. You became a young adult, you were fired, abused, sexually assaulted again, right? So I'm trying to lay out for you this pervasive, prolonged, chronic pattern of traumatic situations within a relationship capacity that can lead to complex PTSD. So those would be the series of traumatic stressors or traumatic events. Chronic, prolonged, pervasive. So boom, you've got that piece of the puzzle. The other issue is for complex PTSD, have these traumatic relationships in your world. Have they impacted your emotion regulation? Are you having a hard time dealing with your emotions? Are you having a hard time controlling them? Is there, number two, an impact on self-identity? Do you know who you are or not know who you are? Do you feel lost or do you feel secure, right? Relational capacities tend to be really bad. So you don't have what it takes to have a relationship that's healthy because all of your relationships have been nothing but traumatic, prolonged, pervasive, chronic, traumatic situations that you find yourself in relationships. And so relational capacities could be compromised, right? The other thing for complex PTSD would be re-experiencing. You have to be in this mindset of re-experiencing the traumatic situation in your relationships from the past. You feel like you're back there, even though you're in Walmart, Target, Sam's Club, TJ Maxx, even though you're in these places, right now you're having a flashback and you're re-experiencing it as if it was happening now. And there, of course, has to be some kind of disturbance in self-regulation, you know? I can't control myself. I can't pull back my impulses. I can't control what I'm thinking and feeling in the moment. That's not all the components of complex PTSD, but those are the most important ones. So you can definitely experience complex PTSD if you feel that you're being framed. You're put into this box. An identity has been assigned to you without your permission. You are now trapped in this box where you are labeled, and you may find yourself sinking beneath those unhealthy labels. That can lead to complex PTSD over time. All right, guys, I'm going to take a little bit of a break here, and then I'm going to go to the chat box, and then I'm going to tell you how this impacts you, okay? Because you're going to want to know this. You're going to want to know this. Edmund Odell says, starts to sound like a cult, not a family. I agree. Sometimes families are very cult-like, right? The Good Glow, hello and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. Okay, I'm just looking for comments here. Q Code Award 01, hello. Always glad to see you in the chat. Axe to Edge says cognitive distortions. Yep. Yeah. Juby Joe says distortion. My daughter used to say, people are staring at me. I said, probably because you're a ginger and beautiful. Oh, that's so cute. I love ginger color hair. I have one child that comes see me for therapy that has ginger hair. Cutest girl ever. I'm like, girl, can I die and come back you? Can I do that? Because I want some ginger hair. You know what I mean? So yeah, but sometimes, GB Joe, let me comment on this a little bit. Sometimes that distortion is so powerful, right, that that person automatically thinks it's negative when in fact it's not, you know? From conspiracy to Christ, hello and welcome. Good to see you and welcome to the channel. You guys are saying rehabilitated. Did I say something? I may have said something. I don't know what day it is at this point. Wise Virgin, hello and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. Wise a Virgin says, I really need help with this issue with my family. Evil mom bought my son video game devices, then used it against me in court saying that's all he had. Oh my. I don't know what to say about that because I don't have the totality. And you know how you after you do something for so many years and you have kind of like this expertise that you've developed because you've just done this for so long. I'm missing a chunk of information from that message. You know what I mean? Like I feel like just reading that, I'm missing a whole chunk of what that situation entailed, you know? So I won't comment on this wise virgin because I feel like I'm missing a big piece of the puzzle. But for the purposes of this conversation, I will say that sometimes that can happen, right? Parents can be framed to look a certain way. I don't think I saw Orlando on here tonight, but I know that he's constantly mentioning parental alienation, and how his ex-wife has kind of caused this dynamic where his children see him a certain way, or she's tried to manipulate them to see him a certain way. And so parents are often framed. They're framed when it comes to parental alienation. They are framed when it comes to adultification, right? When kids tend to be rather mature and they think they're grown up, sometimes the parents are framed as being the culprit. You've let them get away with too much. You didn't set boundaries. You didn't discipline. You know what I mean? So parents are always going to face some kind of being judged, and that may entail being framed. It's a possibility. Yeah. Anaphylaxis says, I have CPTSD also. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised. Keep in mind that complex PTSD is, how do I want to say this? It's the relationship PTSD. PTSD is more of the physiological, emotional, psychological trauma, PTSD, but complex PTSD is more of the relationship PTSD. And we in the United States do not acknowledge it. I don't even think the UK or Canada acknowledges it. I do know, well, then again, never mind. I take that back. Ignore that whole piece there. In the United States, we do not diagnose complex PTSD. In other countries, they do. I hope that makes sense. We're just the ones here in the US who are behind, you know? Annie Walker says, unfortunately, it's a false identity that's projected onto you. Yeah, it can be. Oh, yeah. I see that a lot. I see it a lot. AMB, good to see you. Welcome to tonight's live chat. Good to see you. Regina Meyer says, I have complex PTSD. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Wouldn't be surprised. Thank you for the super chat. I can work things out, Breezy. I appreciate you being genuine and generous often. I appreciate you. Vibe Moss, hello and welcome to the channel. Good to see you. Vibe Moss says, wow, I didn't realize that ABT. Oh, I didn't realize that about labels. Makes sense that I have a fear of perception. I had to live my whole life being labeled. How unfair. It is very unfair, right? But here's the key, and this is what's important. You may be a victim of labeling, but do you have to accept that labeling? That's the therapeutic question that I ask my clients all the time. Excuse me, guys. I ask my clients all the time, okay, you're being labeled, but do you have to accept that label? And when I hear clients say no, I get so excited because I'm like, yes, because you're going to push back and you're going to say, that's not my identity, right? And you're also going to put up a boundary with whoever's labeling you, right? Grandma, your cousin, your uncle, your sister, right? Go ahead and label away. But I am not going to live my life based on how you see me. I'm going to live my life based on who I truly am. And so that's usually the kind of therapy I have to give to my clients who are dealing with this. But I encourage you, Vibe Moss, to kind of look at that a little bit. And I don't know, maybe try to see it that way. I don't know. I'm interested to see where that goes for you. But you truly and honestly do not have to live your life based on how they see you. Okay, let me continue. Just Kendra, hello and welcome. Good to see you. Cold Brew says, hello and welcome. Glad to see you and thank you for being a member on the channel. Cold Brew says, people say CPTSD childhood, but is it possible to have adult onset? CPTSD. Oh, definitely. Childhood onset, adult onset, it's all complex PTSD. If you have had a series of negative, painful, hurtful, traumatizing relationship dynamics that are prolonged, it may not get observed as being something that happened to you in childhood. It may have started at 18. Think about the young ladies and the young men who get pulled into the trafficking scene, sex trafficking, right? Sometimes that starts at the tender age of 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and it goes up. And so if you're in a sex trafficking ring, right? 18 to 30 years old, maybe you were a stripper, a prostitute, or you were just kind of what's the word, you were made some kind of figure in the sex ring world, right? 18 to 30, that could cause complex PTSD. Why? Because it's a prolonged, pervasive, chronic pattern of trauma that has been consistent over time. And so that can definitely happen in adulthood and in childhood. Yes. That was a great question. I'm glad you asked that. SH, hello and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. SH says, yes, definitely cult-like. I know someone who sets people up for a bad situation so he can score a win. Toxic, truly toxic and pathological. I'll say so. Yeah. Annie Walker says, lost child here. It's okay. Adults who may be the lost child can be the most intelligent, the most sensitive and compassionate. Why? Because they grew up slower. They were very unsure about who they are. Nobody in the family really shined a spotlight on them. So you guys were over here, maybe growing, learning, evolving, processing, right? So my younger brother, I think, is a lost child. I hate to say that about him, but he just didn't leave the chicken coop. My brother left when he was probably about 16. And my mom was just like, if you want to go and be grown, go be grown. He had children really young. He was in a long-term relationship really young. So his life started off really fast. I was the one who also left the chicken coop, but I left with a goal in mind, which was to break a family curse, to stay the track, to learn as much as I could, to not allow people to throw me off course, right? And I was very dedicated to my purpose. So we left, but my younger sibling, no. He's been in the back corner saying, I really don't want to have to work. I really don't want to have to put my mind to much. And I most certainly don't want to have to be responsible if I don't have to be. So Annie Walker, but this is where I'm trying to encourage you. This may have been you and my younger sibling, but my younger sibling also has a flip side to him. He's wise. He thinks things through very intensely. When the family is exhausted and doesn't know what to do, he's the lost child that will step up and say, here's what I think. Here's what I think is happening. So he's kind of like a therapist sometimes. And he can be very non-judgmental because he's compassionate. So there's positive things about the lost child. It's often heard as a negative thing because you're quote unquote lost. But sometimes you can be really self-assured even if you are lost. I hope that makes sense. And hopefully that gave you some healing of mind, Annie Walker. Fed, hello and welcome. Good to see you and welcome to the channel. Fed says, you know what? I think these convoluted dynamics started in the family and get replicated in workplaces. I'm coming to realize that one workplace out of two same with these very same dynamics. Okay, I read that a little choppy. I get it. Yeah, consider a family as a busy city. I always use this as a example. A busy New York City. You know how there's a bunch of lights and cars and noises and billboards and things like that in New York. You just kind of feel a little overwhelmed. Everything is going and going and it never stops, right? A family is like a busy city. Everybody has different opinions and feelings and needs and wants and attitudes and belief systems and fears. And it's like a busy city, right? And so consider the workplace being the same thing. Everybody has a variety of needs and personalities, behaviors, and they're also bringing to the table a lot of their trauma. They're also bringing to the table a lot of their rude and insensitive behaviors that they have maintained in their family. So I think workplaces can very much be similar to families. 100%. Unforeseen blessings. Hello and welcome. Good to see you tonight. Unforeseen blessings says, what about the parentified child? Yeah, the parentified child, you can definitely be framed there as well. The parentified child says, the frame for the parentified child is you're mature, you're growing up fast, you're going to be the one that catches on to the truth faster than your other siblings. You have what it takes to care for somebody. And you're probably the smart one, the intellectual one, the one with the high IQ, the one who's mature. And so what happens? You get framed and put into this box of you're now going to parent your siblings, whether that parent verbalizes it or not. You know that you are the parentified child. So that is also a frame, 100%. 100%. I've learned about me. This may be a good example for you guys too. I've learned about me over the years, and I'm like split down the middle. I'm kind of, it's a part that I grieve, and the other piece of it is flattering. So I've kind of adopted in my family the role of hero and rescuer. So when something goes wrong, my family, my mother, my sibling, even some of our close family friends, they all look at me, they look at me like, so what do you think we should do? And sometimes I'm hot, I'm tired. Like when we had a natural disaster here in Pennsylvania, there was also one in Ohio when my family and I were in Ohio, my mom, my brother and I. If something tragic happens like that, everybody looks at me like, well, what do you think we should do? And sometimes I feel like I don't know what to do. Why are you looking at me? You know what I mean? And so you can kind of get put into that frame, of being the rescuer. And when something goes wrong, they're not going to look at Kiki. They're not going to look at Aunt Bobo. They're going to look at you. And so you have to sometimes you can kind of feel those feelings of grief, right? It's like, why do I have to be the one that's been framed to fit this description? Because there's times when I don't fit this at all. As a matter of fact, I don't want to fit that, but you put me into that, parentified child, you're put into that unknowingly sometimes, and you have to grieve the fact that maybe you lost your childhood. You have to grieve the fact that maybe you're never going to be seen as a sibling. You're always going to be seen as a parent. There is definitely grief when you are framed. Janog, good to see you. Welcome. Glad to see you in tonight's live chat. I'm going to keep going. Then I'm going to give you the last part of the content. Janog says, I see a problem with people who marry into a family and then try to tell the new spouse who their family of origin is, which can be very not true. True. Very true. I see that as well. And thank you so much for that. I'm going to try to recover in just a little bit here as we sign off. But I agree with that. To me, you can't necessarily be told what the family is. You kind of have to sit amongst them and get that feel for yourself, Okay. Thank you for the super sticker, Breezy. Again, I appreciate you. Love you so much. Thank you for being so generous. Laura Fit, you're going to be my last one before I go back to the content. Laura Fit says, I used to be the hero rescuer. Thank God for knowledge and change. Yeah, that's so true. Right? Laura Fit, that was a good one. Because sometimes you have to jump off that boat. And guess what? Sometimes I have. But here's the scary part, okay? Sometimes I have jumped off that rescuer boat. And I'm like, somebody else decide. And my family's like, we're going to die. We're going to sink. We can't think. We don't know which way to go without you. And sometimes I'm just like, oh my God, you can't think for yourself. But sometimes you can jump off that boat, right, Laura Fit? And you have to for your own sanity. You got to get out of that frame family members can put you into and then kind of crowd you into. You know what I mean? Okay, so what's the impact on you? Shock, withdrawal, panic. Shock, withdrawal, panic, backed by research. Who wants to be framed in their family to be something that they aren't? Shock that it's happening, withdrawal because you want it to stop. You know, like there are times I don't want to be seen as the rescuer or the hero. I would like to be seen as the baby that wants to cry right now because it's hot in here, or I'm miserable, or I'm cranky today, or whatever. Right. So sometimes we want to get out of those boxes that our family can kind of put us into. Right. So we withdraw, leave me alone, kind of a disposition. And then sometimes there's panic. Right. Imagine being framed as the hero and the rescuer. Okay. And there's a natural disaster or something happening. Everybody's looking to you and you don't know what to do. You know what I mean? You don't have the answers, but everybody's looking at you to give them the answer. You know what I mean? And so that can be very destabilizing. So shock, withdrawal, and panic. The other piece of this is you may fall into a self-fulfilling prophecy. You may begin to believe the frame that has been applied to you, the drug addict frame, the anxiety frame, the depressive frame, the borderline personality frame, the histrionic frame, the narcissistic frame, the selfish frame. You get put into that, you may fall into self-fulfilling prophecy where you begin to really act out the characteristics of that frame. Does that make sense, guys? You may also suffer emotionally and psychologically because you have too high expectations for yourself based on that frame. Right? I should always rescue my family. That's too high of an expectation, right? Or too low of an expectation. I don't need to do A, B, and C to make it in life. I could just go work down the street at the gas station. So having too high expectations of yourself and too low of expectations for yourself can come about when you are placed in a frame and you fit that description, right? You've kind of adopted what that family member or family dynamic has said that you are, constant misunderstandings. Anytime you're framed, everybody is going to, in your family, see you through those frames. So you may not be the lost child, you may not be the black sheep, but because Aunt TT over there says that you are the black sheep, and she's kind of encouraged everybody in the family to treat you like the scapegoat, then you are the scapegoat. And so there's going to be a lot of misunderstandings because family members are going to approach you in a way that's incorrect. And so they're going to misinterpret you, misinterpret your intentions, right? Act like they don't really know you. The list goes on. PTSD, complex PTSD, we've already talked about that, guys. That's a huge impact, and it can happen just because it's a prolonged, pervasive, chronic pattern of having traumatic relationships over time, and there's no ending in sight. It's like you're on a deserted island all by yourself and you can't see. You're looking, trying to see, is there somewhere I can get to the end, right? And there's nowhere to go. And so complex PTSD, sorry guys, I thought I heard something upstairs. Complex PTSD is basically that. It's I'm stuck here in this continual chronic pattern of characteristics, behaviors, situations, and I don't see an end in sight. I don't have coping skills. I don't know how to deal with this, right? So complex PTSD, the 5 stages of grief you guys may find yourself in. You're framed in your family incorrectly. They boxed you into this frame and they're holding you to it and you can't get out of it. You're probably going to go through the 5 stages of grief. First stage, denial. No, this is not happening to me. I am not the black sheep. I'm not the drug addict of the family. I'm not the manipulator. That's not me. It may be her over there, but it's not me, right? So denial. Anger. How dare you put me into that category? Yeah, who do you think I am? So anger. Depression. I can't believe they're doing this to me. Crying. Thinking about it over and over and over, right? Bargaining. You know what, Uncle Bo? If you just talk nicer about me to the family, if you loan me some money and co-sign for me some nice outfits, a car, a home, everybody can see me good. And what I'm going to do for you is going to be tenfold. So bargaining, it's like maybe I can give something so I can get. And then acceptance. You may get to a part of these grievous stages and say, you know what? I accept that I'm the black sheep. I accept that I've been labeled the scapegoat, but I don't have to live up to that. So the 5 stages of grief: erosion of trust over time. Erosion of trust over time. It's easy to have your trust minimized and reduced and decreasing because of that frame that your family has put you in that you can't escape from. And a breakdown in communication. Breakdown in communication. Why would you want to communicate with a family who doesn't see who you really are? Why would you want to communicate with a family that doesn't have your best interests at heart? They framed you, they've labeled you, right? So what's the thing that you're most likely going to do? You're kind of going to withdraw, right? And so a breakdown in communication happens there. These are complex ideologies, guys. I really, like I always say, I literally scratched the surface. We could talk about this for many live chats, you know? So I'm going to be bringing this topic back in a variety of ways over the summer and, you know, into the end of the year. Come back tomorrow and visit me too for the live chat. I think you're going to like what it is. I will post the chat in the comments section of my channel so that you can see what's on its way. And let me know in the chat box if you guys want me to talk about in my Monday video, if you want me to talk about the psychology of women who put their children last and they put their men, their boyfriends, their new spouses and partners first. So let me know if you guys want to hear that. Some of you have mentioned it and some of you have emailed me about it. So let me know if you want me to talk about that. All right, guys, I'm going to skim the chat box and we're going to close this down. And I will definitely see you tomorrow. Tammy Nicely, hello. Thank you so much. These are my Jeffrey Dahmer glasses, you know? No, I'm kidding. Although, did he wear glasses like this, guys? Maybe I shouldn't be saying that. Okay, well, anyway, I couldn't find these. You know why I couldn't find them? Because so next week is my birthday week, okay? And so I keep saying everything is related to my age. I keep saying that. So I couldn't find these. And guess where they were? You ready for this? Up here. I'm like, where's my glasses? Where'd they go? I can't find them. And one of my therapy kids was cracking up. Okay. He's like, Miss Tamara, your glasses are on your head? I'm like, no, they're not. And I feel up there. I'm like, here they are. So I couldn't find these for the longest today. So guess what? I opted for these, which I do wear at home. I wear them to bed sometimes when I'm reading things. So thank you. I'm glad they look good. To me, they look like Jeffrey Dahmer, but you know, I'm not Jeffrey Dahmer, so that should give you some peace of mind. Jeremy Robinson, good to see you and welcome to tonight's live chat. Jeremy Robinson says, the enabler is mom, especially when it comes to my stepfather. Yeah. Enablers are rough to deal with, aren't they? You just want to say, just stop. If you stop, they will stop, most likely, you know? Fairy Girl, good to see you. Welcome. Glad to see you with the dabs. Don One, good to see you. I know, right? My mom is keeping it real. Thank you, Don One. I'm going to show her that when I get off from here. Good to see you. Welcome to the chat. Welcome to tonight's live chat. You've been on the channel for years, but I meant to say welcome to tonight's live chat. The Good Glow says rescuer and the scapegoat could never catch a break, and it seemed that everything was my fault. Yeah, of course. Everything is your fault when you're the black sheep. Yeah. Axe the Edge says, don't play along. So I'm labeled as unmannerly. Yeah. My mom was labeled kind of like the one that goes backwards. You know, everybody's going this way. My mom's going this way all by herself. You know what I mean? But there's a good side of that. You know, we all need a little bit of that. We don't want to adopt what I call the boss syndrome, right? Which is being like a sheep and constantly following everybody without any forethought into what it is that you're following, why you're following. Why are you doing this? Why? What's the why? You know, we very rarely question why everybody is going over there to get the new Timberlands. You know what I mean? So yeah, totally get you, Axe to Edge. Yeah, Priya Mason, I understand. I get you. They're hard to find. They can be. You can probably find like just the starting point on psychologytoday.com or goodtherapy.org. Not a plug for them, nothing like that. But that is like the two biggest search engines where you can find, you know, a little bit of a place to start, especially if you're in the United States. Excuse me, GJE, thank you so much. I appreciate you and good to see you tonight. Okay, let me keep moving, guys, because we're going to wrap up here in just a second. Jessica J says, it's been another one of those weeks. I'm listening. Oh, I believe it. I believe it. Don't feel bad. I believe it. Din Woke, hello and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. Okay. Dennis Robinson. Yeah, that's what I thought you meant. Gang stalking. That's really what it is, right? Vinny, or the idea of gang stalking. Vinny, hello and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you so much. Yes, always good to see you. Always good to see all of you on the channel. I just love seeing you guys in the chat box. Labassi, I hope I said that correctly. Good to see you and welcome to tonight's live chat. You said people don't bother to make their own opinion. No, they don't. They don't. And that's the scary part. You know, they just kind of adopt the next person, the next person's opinion. That's what's called the false consensus effect. I just really believe that everybody believes this, so I'm going to believe it too. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Okay, Din Woke. Thank God I'm not alone. Thank God I am not alone. Okay, guys, I'm just scrolling. Yeah, you're right. I'm just going to put your comment up here. Just Kendra, I agree with that. I can go with that. Yeah. Okay. Sun and Sunflowers, thank you for that. Lunar Complaints Department. Wow, that sounds official. Hello and welcome. Good to see you and welcome to the channel. Lunar Complaints Department says, do they see the damage they do? Not always. Not always. Nope. When you are being framed, the only person who the only thing that person cares about is framing you. They don't care that it does damage. They don't care that the scapegoat black sheep role is going to negatively impact you. Most of the time, they don't even have knowledge on the negative impact of labels, right? So, you know, they don't see the damage. As a matter of fact, if you're being raised by a narcissist, if you are married to a narcissist, if you have a sister or brother who's a narcissist, they're most certainly not going to care about the impact on you, right? Because it's all about them. And if they can put you in a negative light and shine brightly for grandiose narcissists, then that's what they're going to do. A Sweden, that was a great question. Thank you. A Sweden, hello and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. A Sweden says, this happened in my family. I have to say either nobody outside the family ever picked up on it, or if they did, nobody said anything. Yeah. Yep. Yes. Q Code Award says they tried to label me as a liar because I would tell the truth and I asked too many questions when I was a child. Well, you know what? I love kids who ask questions. Now, if you start asking me too many questions, because I've had that in session, I've had kids be like, Mr. Kimmer, how old are you? I don't mind giving my age. I'm like, okay, I'm these numbers. And then they'll say, oh, my mom, so you're old enough to be my mom? And I'll say, yeah, I am. Shocking, right? Then they'll say, you look like you're like 19. I'm like, oh, stop buttering me up. I love you. And then they're like, no, you really do. You could pass for 16. And I'm like, okay, now stop lying. No, I'm kidding, guys. But they will do that sometimes and they'll throw questions at me. Are you married? And I'll say, I don't answer those questions, my dear. You know why? It causes trouble, whether I say yes or no. Okay. You know, or sometimes the kid will say, where do you live? And that's when I'm like, okay, this is not good. So questions are good. Q Code Award. That's what I'm getting at. It just depends on what the question is really about. What are you getting at by asking me that question? You know? Being a child therapist puts you in some very vulnerable positions. Let me just say, T Bunny Shy, did I say hello to you? Hello and welcome if I did not. T Bunny Shy says they take the focus off themselves and onto us. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, they project. Somebody else said tonight they project. Yep. Okay. Looking for comments I didn't get to, people I didn't get to. Hanafa El Amin. I hope I said that correct. Glad to see you back. Welcome back. Hanafa El Amin. Some nights I can get it, some nights I can't. Says they love triangulation. Yeah, they do. Yep, I agree. I agree. Okay. Betsy Sigler, hello and welcome. Good to see you and welcome to the channel. Betsy Sigler, because I don't remember seeing you, says, I have been framed by my evil narc sister since we were little. Had to go no contact 18 years ago because she turned the entire family against me as I was always at college and grad school. That is a possibility that a lot of young people are afraid of. I have a ton of adolescent clients who are going off to college. I love them dearly as clients. They've been with me for so long and they're now going off to college. And one thing they're afraid of, and this is just to kind of validate you a little bit, Betsy Sigler or Seigler, I hope I'm saying it correctly. They are worried that their siblings are going to get the most love and affection and that they're going to be pushed away. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like a very normal piece of the puzzle. Yeah. Yeah. But it's painful, right? When you have a family member who does this. Dawn One, you're welcome. And thank you so much for being a part of the channel and for keeping it going. Every little bit that you guys do keeps the channel running and up and visible in YouTube. So I truly appreciate you. Thank you. I feel like I don't say it enough. Okay, bear with me, guys. Thank you so much, Dr. May Sonic Disorder. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Welcome to the chat. Welcome to the channel because I don't remember seeing you. It's good to have you. Okay, let me keep moving, guys. A seat at the King's table with Tanisha. What? Yours is on Tuesday. Mine is on Wednesday. Mine is on Wednesday. But here, you ready for this? A seat at the King's table with Tanisha. I don't want to celebrate it. Here's what I want to do. I want to sit with my mom. I want to talk to my mom because she's still in recovery, but she's doing so good. Thanks to all of your prayers and support of me and support of my mom. I just want to be, you know what I mean? I'm probably going to see about 5 clients and then I'm going to go home. And I just want to hear the birds. I want to read. You know, maybe a cupcake or 2, you know, it's like once you hit a certain age, you're like, I really don't want to go to the club. I really don't party. I just want to be, you know, does that mean I'm getting old? I don't know. All right, guys, enough of my silly shenanigans. All right. If I missed any of you, forgive me. SH. I don't know if I read most of yours tonight. I feel like I haven't. I was trying to see if you had a comment that I could just pull up. Axe to Edge, you're welcome. You're welcome. Some people get it really confused. If you want, I can do a live chat on complex PTSD and give you an hour breakdown of what that is. So let me know if you want me to talk about that as well. Guys, I love you so much. Thank you for everything that you've put in the chat box tonight, the super chats, the memberships, all of that. Appreciate you. Come join me tomorrow. We're going to keep talking about these interesting things. I'll make sure that I let you know what it is ahead of time so you'll know. I welcome you. In the meantime, for those of you I didn't get, forgive me, but I love you and I see you. I hope you have a wonderful Friday night. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.